How can a piece of music tell a story without words? Anna Ebba Elektra Michaela van Hausswolff, more commonly known by her stage name Anna van Hausswolff, is an experimental multi-instrumentalist from Gothenburg, Sweden. She's the daughter of experimental sound artist Carl Michael van Hausswolff, so, as you can imagine, she has a lot of musical background. In 2010, she released her first piece of music, Singing from the Grave, a dark yet melancholic piano album with soaring vocal passages. The lyrics of the songs on here range from the loss of time to what medication can do to your psyche, and many other topics about life and death. With her sophomore album, Ceremony, she moved on to something new and wholly unique, with an instrument barely used in contemporary music, the pipe organ, creating beautiful yet haunting folk/pop music. She followed that up with The Miraculous, a more drone-oriented album. This album featured much darker poetic lyrics about growing up, broken relationships, and many other topics. With her fourth album, however, Dead Magic from 2018, she delves into the darkest depths of the world to share themes of death, the lack of silence in the modern times, etc., all through lyrics with a dark, gothic-esque cadence. This album is largely seen as her best, and it was my personal album of the year in 2018. After making one of the most unique albums of the decade, how would Anna continue her musical journey? In 2020, All Thoughts Fly released. This album is completely instrumental and also without any other instruments except the pipe organ. Anna pushes her creativity with the pipe organ to her limits, carrying a whole album with just one almost forgotten instrument. Within the many intricate compositions of the record, I noticed something, that the album flows in a way that feels like a story. An intentional, cohesive narrative. To further examine the tracks and their meanings, we first must look at some background information regarding the album. Sacro Bosco, translated to Sacred Grove, is a park underneath the residence of the Castle of Orsini in the Italian city Bormazzo. The park is filled with sculpted mythological creatures from Greek and Italian folklore. Many of these have since overgrown. It was largely believed that Pier Francesco Orsini commissioned the park after the loss of his wife, Giulia Farnese, to in some way cope with the grief he felt. Who better to explain the themes than Anna herself? This is what she said about the topic. There's a sadness and wilderness that inspired me to write this album. Also a timelessness. I believe that this park has survived not only due to its beauty, but also because of the iconography. It has been liberated from predictable ideas and ideals. The people who built this park truly set their minds and imagination free. All Thoughts Fly is a homage to this creation and an effort to articulate the atmosphere and the feelings that this place evokes inside of me. It's a very personal interpretation of a place that I lack the words to describe. I'd like to believe Orsini built this monumental park out of grief for his dead wife. And in my Sacro Bosco, I use this story as a core for my own inspiration, love as a foundation for creation. Sacro Bosco in Bormazzo is a creation carved out of one man's head. A frozen thought lasting throughout time and touching people across generations. All Thoughts Fly, Ogni Pensiero Vola, is about this, the importance of sharing for surviving, creating space and evolving. Once you've shared your words, they are not only yours anymore. I'd like to propose that All Thoughts Fly tells its story chronologically through the tracklist. My ideas for why this is the case are purely speculation. However, I will state my case with many arguments for why I believe the album is telling a chronological story. Let's start off with the opening track, Theater of Nature is a track that starts off with a colorful opening that slowly builds upon a simple starting melody. I believe this track represents the memories Orsini has about the love for his wife, and how this feels like a theater play running its course. The building upon the starting melody proceeds into a beautiful, almost nature-filled scene, however, slowly transforms into an ambient and drone soundscape, slowly fading out of existence. The beauty and bliss slowly disappearing, just like the life that Orsini used to live with his wife. Even the starting melody begins to fade, thus representing the death of Giulia. The reason why I believe this I'll touch upon later, but for now, let's move to the next piece. Dolore di Orsini, or translated to English, Pain of Orsini, quickly follows up on the first track's theme of death. The music video opens on a large building. The melody starting the piece feels like chords that would play at a funeral, dissonant and dreary. A blood-like liquid starts seeping down the sides. This melody does not stray far away from the melody that opened Theater of Nature, as it builds in a similar way. It pans to a figure, and if you look closely, the figure is standing in front of the carcass of a dead person. The shot slowly moves out of the building, which I believe represents the castle of Orsini. As the melody builds, we move into a large grassland, representing the land next to the castle. As a screeching sound starts to appear, so do the outlines of structures. Out of a tree in the middle, a figure later appears floating, which connects the representation of nature in Giulia on the first track. Giulia slowly floats towards the sky, and as she reaches the top, beams of light emanate from her, and slowly turn into figures which are built in the park. These structures then appear out of the ground. The shot slowly moves into a forest, connecting nature to the structures in the park. On Anna's Instagram, the post that promoted the music video had this section in its description. The video depicts Mr. Orsini burying his wife, the passage of time in nature, and sculptures taking shape and being set up by the help of a spirit. A movement forwards, whilst looking backwards. The video slowly moves backwards, and this is an integral detail to why I think that this is a chronological album. During the entire duration of the music video of the third track, Sacro Bosco, we move forwards, thus following the same sentiments as that last line. Out of the pain that Orsini feels, he wants to cope with this grief in a unique way, by shaping a new world right under where he used to live with his wife. We start with a slow, brooding atmosphere with the same kind of screeching noises that played when his wife ascended from the last song. We slowly move through a foggy landscape of the park. We approach a staircase. After moving up the steps, the video focuses on a large building in the distance. As the focus is nearing this place, the track shifts into melancholy as it moves closer and closer to the building. Inside, we can see that the walls are painted. These paintings depict a figure pointing towards sculptures, whilst standing next to someone who's laying down. It is out of this figure that Giulia yet again appears. She floats through the structure to a statue. While this happens, a sudden drift of sound opens to reveal the same kind of nature-filled sounds as in Theater of Nature. As we move up the structure, it's clearly revealed that the sculptures are those from the park, and the statue represents Giulia, which is why she moves into it. We move up and go down again, following a shimmer of light, which might represent the love that Orsini has for his wife, slowly returning. Orsini is keeping the memory of her alive. To give more context, the sculpture on the album cover is a depiction of Orcus, the god of the underworld in Italian mythology. Orcus is often compared to the Greek god of the underworld, Hades. The title of this track is Persefone, the wife of Hades and the goddess of spring. Therefore, I'm positive that Theater of Nature is about the life of Julia. Persefone represents Julia. Orcus is also the name of the underworld, where souls live after they die. Orcus represents Orsini, looking over his wife in the realm of the dead. Persephone's love for nature is clearly felt in the song, as the chords and progression are a lot like the first track. Memory is a very important aspect for the song. The song moves very slow and is very ambient and droning. I believe that the title of the piece represents Orsini entering the mouth of the sculpture of Orcus. Inside the upper lip of the structure, this sentence is inscribed, Ogni pensiero vola, which translates to All Thoughts Fly, the title of this album. It's also stated that any whisper made from inside of Orcus reverberates at the base of the steps. This sentiment is echoed in the music too, as you can hear the beginning melody of Theater of Nature softly playing in the background. This is Orsini hearing his wife, or the memories of her, within the underworld. It is no coincidence that the next track is called. This song is very transcendental, as it uses a lot of synchronic arpeggios to move itself along. It builds and builds, just like nature growing. The song feels like the world of Orsini opening up again. The spring has begun after a long chapter of winter. The vision of his wife is clear as day now. Because of the creation Orsini has made in his grief and sadness, he can finally cope with the death of his wife. He can hear his memories of her through the mouth of Orcus. This perspective is echoed by the single cover of All Thoughts Fly. Anna, just like Orsini, is standing inside of the mouth of Orcus. I think it's very fitting that this is the title of the album, because it represents what intrigues Anna so much about Sacro Bosco, the overcoming of sadness with art. The finale of All Thoughts Fly is unexpectedly uplifting. It moves slowly, carefully, and delicately. This is Orsini moving on with his life, outside the gates of the underworld where his wife stays. And the sentiment of the song is very positive in my opinion. It really feels like a relief after a long period of pain. A closure not only to this album, but also to Orsini, as he can finally move past his grief. I'm not sure what for Bruna means. Perhaps Anna felt grief over a person of her own, and dedicated this piece of music to that person. Maybe she is moved by the story of Orsini because it's personal to her. I hope that after you looked at this dissection of this album, you can look at it in a new way. Whether you agree with my points or not, this is what All Thoughts Fly means to me. A chronological story of an artist using his or hers art to move past pain. Whether it's Pier Francesco Orsini creating a park in memory of his wife, or Anna von Hausswolff creating a piece of music for someone called Bruna. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. I'll be creating more content on music that I love, whether it's reviews or more video essays. Only time will tell. I have many ideas for this channel and I hope you're there to listen to me sharing them. I also want to thank Lee Likes Music, Buffalo Staple, and Rick the Lie for proofreading the script and encouraging me to finish this thing. And I also want to thank Anna for making one of the most exciting albums of the last couple years. See you next time.